If not, then I'm confused.
Well, Letitia won't be able to talk for this one.
Still coming down.
Alright. It's like how do I go?
Hi, guys. Hi, guys. I think we're here. Can you see us? Drop something in the chat.
It shows we are waiting. Jumping we're live. Okay, we're live.
All right, Letitia. I think we're here. Can you see us? Drop something in the chat.
Please, if you can hear or see us, let us know. Can you just send a message? I'll drop a message. That way we know you guys can hear us. Let's see. Hi, so far. Okay. Yes, I can hear you now. Okay, that's good. All right. Can barely hear. So I can confirm. Can you hear us clearly right now?
Is it better?
Please confirm if you can hear us.
Letitia, let's test your mic as well.
Can you guys hear me? Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Clear, loud and clear.
I'm
Awesome.
very excited to have you guys here.
Same here. All right. Thank you guys for waiting. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, all right. So, okay, they can hear us. Okay, so, okay. Should I say something? I'll go over. 1 minute. I'm trying to. Us. All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining. I'm Eunice Abura, and with me is Priscilla and Letitia. So I'll go ahead and just give a rundown about myself or introduce myself. I'm Eunice Abura, a cybersecurity professional, a mentor, a coach, and the founder of Unlimited Skies Tech. And today we will be discussing the global CrowdStrike outage, some of the lessons we can learn maybe from client side or CrowdStrike itself. But before we delve into that, I'll give the floor to my colleagues, that way they can introduce themselves. And also to point out that unfortunately, Linda couldn't make it because her flight got canceled. But myself, Priscilla, and Letitia have something for you also. Priscilla, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi guys. Good to see everyone. So I'm Priscilla, Security Controls Program Manager. Very excited about this talk. CrowdStrike has been all over the news, so we're very excited to jump into it. And Letitia, you want to go?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. My name is Leticia, and I am a risk and compliance analyst. I am very excited to have you all joining us today in this live stream to discuss about that global outage incident with CrowdStrike. And in this live session, we are hoping that you will be shooting us with questions so that we could do it will be a very amazing live session.
Okay, that sounds good. So we all know it happened July 19, where a lot of people couldn't log in to their machine. And sorry, I got distracted. So a lot of people couldn't log in, and after investigation, we realized that CrowdStrike actually had a faulty update, and unfortunately, some Microsoft Windows server got affected. And with that, just imagine company relying on CrowdStrike, which is a cybersecurity company, to provide such update. So Priscilla will go through the SDLCs, that is System Development Life Cycle, as well as the different type of code testing. She'll walk us through how this whole thing, like how the different phases of step to test code, and then just walk us. So let's just listen to her and see what she has for us.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thanks, Janice. So I'm basically going to go over the software development life cycle. And this is going to be very basic because I know some of our audience are not really IT savvy. So if you already know this, just, know that we're trying to go very from the background, basically from the beginning. So software development life cycle, popularly known, a lot of people just call it SDLC, is basically a structured approach to software development. Okay, so it outlines a series of phases of activities that go into developing, testing, and maintaining software. And usually there's like 7 stages. Of course, it could vary depending on the company, but most of the time, it will include all the 7 phases that I'm about to go over. So the planning phase is where we define the project, basically the scope of the project, the objectives, the timelines, and then we go into requirement analysis. This is usually where your business analysts come in, where we are gathering and documenting and figuring out what are the functional requirements, what are the non-functional requirements, and stuff like that. Then we go on to the design. Designing is where we create the architecture, detailed design of the system. After this is implementation. Implementation is the actual coding. So this is where the software engineers are actually, involved, where they do the actual coding. They are writing actual code, design specifications and things like that. And then we go on to testing. Testing is where we verify that the software is working as we intended it to work. We are going to circle back to testing because this is going to be a huge topic as it relates to CrowdStrike. After testing, then we go into deployment. This is where we release the software to production, making it available to users. And then, of course, maintenance. We have to always go back, fixing bugs, fixing whatever is not working correctly. As far as code testing, there are 8 different kinds of code testing, but again, this is loose, give or take. You could have a little bit more, a little bit less, but some of the different types of testing that many companies use are one, unit testing. Unit testing is when we test the individual components or the units of code. Integration testing is when we ensure that the different modules or components are working together as expected. Then we go on to system testing. System testing is basically where we are testing the complete and integrated software. We want to validate its compliance and making sure that it's going along with the specific requirements. Acceptance testing is the next one. This is where we verify that the software meets business requirements and is ready for deployment. This usually involves end users. So whoever is going to be using the particular software, we try to get them to try it out and things like that. Performance testing is the next one. This assesses the software's performance under load. So sometimes some people call it stress testing. We add, different things, make sure that, for example, if you have a website that you're trying to, get started or whatever. We want to make sure, okay, people are actually ordering. We're testing, okay, is it going through? When people log on, is it going to crash? Things like that. And then we go on to security testing. We want to identify the vulnerabilities, ensure that the software is secure against attacks. And the final two are regression testing and beta testing. Regression testing is where we make sure that the new code changes do not adversely affect the existing functionalities. And beta testing is where we release the software to a limited audience to kind of identify the issues before the final release. So some of these stages we're going to circle back on, but I know Eunice and Letitia have something to share as well. So I'll let them go ahead and take it from here.
All right, thank you so much, Priscilla. That's an in-depth analysis on all the different type of testing and going through the SDLC, that's the system development life cycle. So Letitia, enough from CrowdStrike, from the vendor itself, I know you have an in-depth knowledge on how third-party vendor risks really work. So can you give us an overview on the life cycle?
Of course. One of the things that I really wanted to stress out today was is to talk about, understanding what is a third-party vendor and what are the different risks associated with onboarding a third-party vendor, and also understanding the different stages of the third-party management life cycle. So to begin, I mean, if I can put it as simple as I can, a third-party vendor is basically an external company or an individual who is contracted by a client or a primary organization to supply specific products or services, or even expertise, based on the client's needs to support the client's or enhance its operation, or even deliver goods or services. Some of the services that I can think of for third-party vendors, think of it as IT services, such as cloud computing, for example. Your cloud computing, we have supply chain management, we even have manufacturing, marketing, or even professional services such as consulting or legal. Yeah, and some of the services that I can even, to provide even further detail, since we're talking about IT, in cloud computing, we're talking about AWS. We know that companies are moving, they're migrating into AWS to being more into cloud. So those are outsourced to Amazon. Those are Amazon Web Services. And then we do have Azure, supported by Microsoft, which, this incident happened with mostly Azure Microsoft clients using the Azure cloud platform. And if I can make it even simple for someone who does not know about IT services, let's talk about the dropshipping business model, for example, right? If you are, let's say you are the client here and customer orders from your website, you outsource the customer order to a third-party manufacturer who produce the product for you and sell it under your label. I hope that is clear enough. Now let's talk about, how do we onboard third parties? And to understand that, we need to understand that we have three distinct stages in the third-party management life cycle. You start with the onboarding stages, then you have the ongoing stage. After you onboard the vendor, you have the ongoing stage. Then you have the offboarding stage. The offboarding is when you let go of the vendor, when you rupture that contract, the initial contract that you have with the vendor. And each of those stages is supported by a strong governance. And for the purpose of our talk today, I'll focus mostly on our first two stages, which is the onboarding and the ongoing stage. Now, I will start with the onboarding stage. Onboarding means you're basically acquiring the vendor, right? The third-party vendor. And when we are onboarding, there are key things that we need to consider. And such things are, we need to identify the need, right? What is our need, and what service is that vendor will be providing to us? You need to consider the contractual agreement as well to outline the scope. So you must have defined scopes, and timeline deliverables is very important because this is key in actually onboarding your third party. Then you have to consider also the risk related to your data security. Now we're talking data security, operational continuity of your business as well, because they can have a risk on your business continuity. Then you need to think about the reputational impact and also the risk and compliance of that third parties, because they might be providing to you services, but hey, if they have an issue, right, related to risk, non-compliance to some regulatory bodies, that can impact you as well, and it can impact you big, major. Yeah. So the first stage now in the onboarding phase, as I mentioned earlier, you need to identify the need and the service to be outsourced. And once you identify that, you need to evaluate the potential risk associated with, that third party accessing your data. And when you're assessing that, you need to include the inherent risk associated with that vendor. And so once you think about those things, and you need to start sourcing for the vendor, right? And when you're sourcing for the vendor, you need to consider that's the due diligence that you're doing at this time, right? So you are doing due diligence on your potential vendor by performing a background check. Yes, you have to do a background check on the vendor. You cannot onboard everyone. You need to check their reputation. You need to check their financial stability. You need to check their business continuity. You need to obtain the audit report. You need to obtain, anything, even the industry report. You need to have even check the Google News, check everything on the vendor to make sure that they won't bring in any risk, any existing risk. You need to consider everything possible before you onboard that vendor. Once you do your due diligence, you need to also, how can I say that? You need to understand the security posture, right? Understand the security posture, meaning understand their ability to respond to cyber threat. How do they protect themselves in case of cyber threat? What is their ability to detect, respond, or recover from them? Those are things that you need to consider. And then you need to also define your security requirements, right? Making sure that the third-party vendor agrees with your policies, your security policies, and they also align with it, because you don't want to take somebody who does not align with your security policies. This is very important because they will be accessing your data. After you're done doing that, and you consider all of that, now you fall into the phase of the contractual agreement and negotiation, right? And during this phase, you define a clear contract that outline the scope of the service, and you need to have a clear service level agreement, which I will abbreviate it as an SLA. Clear SLA that specify performance metrics, quality standards, your response times, right? In case of outage, even penalties for non-compliance. All of those things must be defined in your contract. You need to make sure that your response times here, we'll talk about the recovery time objective, and even your recovery point objective, which are key metrics in your big business continuity, because you need to measure to make sure that, it helps you as well to prepare, manage any disruption that may happen, and define acceptable downtime and data loss limit. Those things are specified in your contract, right? And then finally, we also have to have you must have those NDAs. Yes, you need to have non-disclosure agreements. Very important as well. And you make sure, because if you're housing, this is to protect your sensitive information.
Okay. So I think Letitia might be experiencing some technical glitch, but that's fine. So she took us over the life cycle of risk management framework. And the reason of us discussing this, I know some of you might be asking, or this is your first time hearing of CrowdStrike. What is CrowdStrike, right? And why do we spend some time talking about the risk management life cycle? It's really, really important. So shortly, we're going to discuss that in depth, right? But CrowdStrike, again, is a cybersecurity company. As I'll just keep it at a basic level. It's a cybersecurity company that offers services to manage endpoint devices. And if you're trying to get into IT and you don't know what an endpoint device is, start thinking of your phone, start thinking of your laptop, start thinking of your tablet. Me and you today, if we get a job, a company will hire us and then they might give us a laptop, right? But come to think of the fact that you might go over the internet to download a certain file. Truth be told, anything that you download over the internet, you really do not have control over that thing and you cannot trust that content 100%. So that's why you need to like CrowdStrike and endpoint detection response tool to be able to scan, right? Scan that particular file to check if there's some form of malware, if there's some form of malicious code. And it also, a lot of like SOC analysts, like the really technical folks, actually use CrowdStrike to perform some form of threat hunting, right? Just to see if you guys or maybe someone within your organization have some form of like, different malware that they must have downloaded over the internet. So at a basic level, come to think of the fact that organizations have so many endpoint devices. How many employees does an organization have? Some organizations have from 5,000 to 500 to thousands of employees. And that's almost about 500 laptops we are talking about. Then because of the fact that they have phones, they have tablets, they have like their workstations, they have like television, projectors, and so on and so forth, right? These are all endpoint devices. So company actually rely on this, again, this CrowdStrike or company to be able to provide services to them. And that's why we need to first of all understand both from CrowdStrike side of house and also in-house as what Priscilla actually covered. So she did cover the process of code testing on CrowdStrike side, and Letitia covered vendor risk management from the client side and what the client is supposed to do. So back to Letitia, to Priscilla, yeah, sorry, to Priscilla. So with the kind of testing that you did cover in depth, what kind of testing do you feel CrowdStrike was supposed to maybe perform to prevent that from happening? What's your thought on that?
Right. So since this was, this issue that occurred, it was due to an update, based on what I've read about, everything going on. I was thinking more along the lines of integration testing as well as regression testing. Because, as I mentioned earlier, integration testing is when we ensure that the different modules or components are working together as expected. So I feel like if a proper integration testing was done, maybe we wouldn't have this issue. Also, with the regression testing, that's when you ensure that the new code does not adversely affect existing functionalities. So yes, we are pushing in an update. Yes, we are, doing a patch or whatever else we're doing. We do not want to disrupt the existing status quo while we are patching something or updating something. So of course we were in there, so we don't know all the details, but just from my knowledge, I feel like if these kind of testing were carried out, it would have prevented a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion. And yeah, so from the testing point of view, that's definitely something I think they should have done. And then I don't know if you wanted me to talk about some of the other things that the actual companies too could have done. Maybe we could go into that later. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's fine because she just mentioned of like integration testing or something like that.
Integration and
So,
testing.
all right. So from CrowdStrike side of house, those are some of the things they were supposed to do so as to prevent, the incident from occurring. And let's not forget, it wasn't a security incident, right? God forbid, if it were a security incident, it would have been a catastrophic event. So thankfully, it's not a security incident. And I might just personally said that for you to be able to understand some of this basic terminology, we have video on our YouTube channel where we cover the core security principle, the principle of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are the core principles as far as IT and cybersecurity in particular is concerned. So if you have some time, you can subscribe to our channel. Make sure you watch those videos. Because my next question to you, Letitia, is we're going to come back to Priscilla. What component of the CIHR was affected? And what is the, can you give us how severe it was, how severe that particular component was affected? Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, so of course. I mean, the biggest component here, we're talking about availability is very high, not being able to access your data. I don't even want to think about how, we saw how Airflight, airplanes company, they suffered from this. Even the medical sector, even the financial institutions, right? Airplanes, people, we have like lots of flight delays and canceling because, they don't have access to the software, to the program to even know which flight you're scheduled on, look at the whole different scheduling. They don't have access to that. And we're talking in the healthcare, not be able to even look at the patient records to see who has an appointment. I'm thinking a lot of patients had the
I think network is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So yes, those are a few things, not being able to access your data. It was very high, very,
Okay.
very high. Even, not being able to make payments. Some people were not able to make payments with their credit card because those terminals were not working. There's no network. There's nothing available for them to be processing the data, right? The payment.
Yeah, so that's really good. And let's not forget, because again, this is security. So as I said, I repeat myself, we have these fundamental videos, even if cybersecurity is not your career path, but we encourage you to go watch it because that video is going to help you how you can even better protect your social media account, because we also mentioned MFA in that video. Everybody is on social media space. You guys are listening to us live via YouTube. So how can you also enable MFA or better protect your account? And once you watch that video, then you really understand the whole shenanigans with CrowdStrike, the fact that clients or companies were affected. So a question that we have, and someone said, after this CrowdStrike disaster, who will pay for the damage? The insurance? If so, whose insurance? Before we answer that question, back to you, Priscilla, are some of those things you feel like organization or client were supposed to do to prevent this from happening?
Yeah, so I know we talked on the side of CrowdStrike, some of the testing that they could have done, but I also feel like on the side of the client, so everybody else that was affected is who we're referring to as the client now. I felt like they should have backup systems, right? So just because you are relying on CrowdStrike as a third-party vendor to do certain things for you, you should always have a backup because no organization is 100% foolproof, right? So as far as some of the airlines that were, having trouble with their scheduling and things like that, many of these systems were already automated, but I feel like they should also have manual systems if need be, or two automated systems so that if one computer is going down, we have something else that we have a backup, that we can go on to. So that definitely, I think, is something we should think about going forward.
That's very good. And let's not forget that, again, organization, we are focusing more about our data, the kind of information we have. Okay? CrowdStrike is a provider. CrowdStrike is servicing a lot of people. But your users have entrusted you with their data. Let's not forget that. So when you are outsourcing services to a vendor, which is CrowdStrike, you have not told your users that you are outsourcing their data in enough share. And if your vendor, again, as we said, this situation is not a security incident, right? But still, availability was affected at the highest level because it could lead to financial loss, reputational damage. People could not even carry out, maybe people have like their said people could not even see their doctors, people could not make any form of payment, people could not fly. We see like there was so much chaos going on that day, right? And even the following day. So let's not forget that at this point, you are the one housing your organization data. You are the one keeping people's data. So you are sourcing that information to a vendor, right? You have not told them. And let's just say it were a security breach. Do you know the impact and the or things that this organization could have faced? So, and if it is a security risk from the side of CrowdStrike, then apparently your organization is also affected at the highest level. Okay. But on the cost of like deployment, because let's not forget, this was an automatic deployment, right? They have a faulty update that they pushed and it got affected. So, Letitia, do you have anything to share on that?
I mean, unless we dive further, but I would say that those Priscilla probably will talk about it when we talk that deployment phase. It was very important. That is something that we should have had in-house, something, for us to have, security policies for us to even test, those procedures to in-house to say, hey, we cannot just take automatic updates, into our system. That is also related to our access of data, right? Because we want to make sure we also have to outline those scopes. That's the certain scope that we need to outline in our SLAs, those service level agreements, and the response time as well. But us also as companies, right? That's why it is very important to have clearly defined incident response plan to respond to this sort of disaster. Because I can't even imagine what happened to small companies.
Yeah, and let's not forget, at this point, we also want to start talking on the type of services. So what will get you guys thought, right? This is an important thing, right? For anyone trying to get into security, believe it or not, in a lot of company relies on vendors for their business to run smoothly, to function. You would definitely need vendors. And if we look at CrowdStrike is a vendor. So this company could not manufacture their own customized tools. And that's why they are relying on this vendor to provide services. So to think of all the different vendors, thousands and millions of vendors that organization go with. For example, a lot of them, they go with like Slack, communication channel, Zoom for their meeting, Teams, and so on and so forth, right? So these are all different vendors. But my thing is, I want us to understand, and we'll still have to address this person question that said that about CrowdStrike disaster, who will pay for it? We're definitely going to address that because we are trying to understand more from the client side. And I'm laying emphasis here because a lot of articles I read, a lot of people was like, oh, CrowdStrike. But I'm like, wait a minute. What did you do in-house that you should have at least prevented this from happening to you? Because again, it's your data. CrowdStrike is just your vendor, correct? So at this point, when we say that we are onboarding a vendor, we bring in that company, or what exactly are we onboarding? What do you guys think?
The services, or onboarding their services.
Their services.
Right. So that's some of the things that we need to understand. Oh, I think you're having like a network glitch. Yeah. Do you have more? Do you want to throw more light on that?
No, as same as Priscilla said, their services is very important. That's what we're onboarding. But I think the major mistake that we're making we usually make is that because of the size of the company, their reputation that they built over the years, we just give them that trust that they will be doing the right thing, and we don't think about what if, we don't have that what if.
Okay. All right. So we have two questions. So let's try and answer one of those questions. So let's understand at this point, we are relying on third-party vendors, right? So for these vendors we are relying on their services, but before even understanding what type of vendor is, right, we have different cloud product or services. I believe some of you must have heard of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. If you want more lecture on this, put it on the chat. And of course, this is our first live show or first live event. So we'll definitely make sure we have, concurrent session. Okay. So say, for example, organizations that rely solely or maybe outsource everything to CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike is the one managing literally everything. that we can imagine, right? That's a different case. But if you have organization where they have like platform as a service and infrastructure as a service, it means you are the one managing your data. For example, USTR company. Say, for example, we want to use like an AWS, like maybe services or product. Still, we are the one managing our data. So we know our data. Even if we are doing like 100%, even if we are outsourcing 100% of our product, we still need to have that in-house documentation. We need to perform due diligence, as Letitia said. And it takes a whole lot. There's like literally a whole lot of things that one needs to do to make sure that that particular vendor adheres to your organization standard. So to answer that question that said, who is gonna pay? Is it like, let me see, who will pay for the damage? The insurance, if so, whose insurance? First and foremost, I want to say that there's what they call service level agreement. Okay? Did you have a service level agreement? And even if you have, you as an in-house organization, did you have any policy that prevented some form of automatic deployment? As Priscilla went, as like she explained, you have like different stuff. The fact that this organization is a brand name doesn't mean that we have to trust them. This is an issue of trust, right? So we need to make sure we employ 0-day, right? Because the fact that this is a brand name, it's a big company. To make matter worse, it's a security company. So we can as well just trust them 100%, but that's not always the case, correct? So we want to make sure that we have internal policy that even govern us. For example, like we have a new NIS 853 that actually came with 2 security control family. Supply chain is one of those control family. Actually, SRO6, that's a control name. It talks so much about this automatic deployment to make sure that in-house organization also need to test. You also have to test to make sure there's no bug, there's no like issue before you can deploy to production, because production is that place where you want 0 tolerance, right? Little or no failure. Okay. Now let's come back. Say back to your question. Let's say before going with CrowdStrike, of course, security will work with financial folks and especially the legal team to have an SLA. So on that SLA, you literally have to define what you want. For example, in case of this, like an incident, there's what we call recovery time objective. Anyone want to talk on that, or are we good?
So for the RTO, I think that's basically referring to an agreement between both companies as far as, okay, if something goes wrong, at what point am I going to have, well, at what time, the time am I going to get my things back up? So that kind of agreement needs to already exist. And, CrowdStrike will have an agreement with, let's say, for example, Microsoft, and say, oh, we're going to have you back and running within 24 hours, or, oh, we're going to have you back and running within 12 hours. Whatever that agreement was is what, the RTO refers to.
Yeah. So at that point, also that's RTO, but the RTO, that is recovering time objective. So say, for example, if you guys actually document a time frame where you know that if services are not available, they need to recover. They need to make sure data is available at that given, at that particular, like that specific time.
Yes.
That is good. But if it has to elapse that time, then CrowdStrike is going to pay. Okay? So CrowdStrike is going to pay, but don't forget that organizations also have insurance. They have their cyber insurance that also manages, take care of that, right? But still, the fact that we have insurance doesn't mean that we need to be relaxed.
Right.
Doesn't mean that we don't need to like literally perform due diligence. Doesn't mean that we don't need to have like policy in place.
Right.
We should be able to have our policy in place. We should be able to define what we want. We should be able to categorize the type of vendors we are bringing in, right? If CrowdStrike is the one accessing a lot of sensitive data, how granular do you go in performing due diligence before you onboard this particular vendor? Right. So that's the question. Okay, yeah. Letitia, do you have something?
Yes, and it is in regards to that statement that you made, that question, because data classification is one of the key things as well. When you are onboarding the vendor, you need to identify, to know exactly what type of information they will be having access to. Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I know data classification is basically you organize your data into different categories, right, based on their sensitivity. Let's talking about if they're going to be housing, let's say your social security, people's social securities, banking informations, all of those things, right? You categorize data based on their sensitivity, their importance, their shared characteristic, right? And it helps you classify the risk, the potential risk impact, as in like, is it the high vendor, high risk vendor, right? Because they're housing very, very, very extremely sensitive data. So based on that, you know already, the type of agreement you have, the contractual term you have with that vendor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as the insurance questions, like Eunice said, I agree as well. I think that both sides are most likely going to pay. So CrowdStrike on its own side is going to definitely pay for certain damages based on whatever contractual agreement that they have. But most of these companies will also have their own insurance too, who will pay. And I know back in the day, I actually used to work in insurance, but most of the time, the company, let's say, for example, Microsoft's insurance will pay. Microsoft insurance is probably going to go back to CrowdStrike to try to also get their money back from CrowdStrike because they're going to say, hey, you guys are the reason for this. But, anyway, just to answer that person's question, we're not going to go too much into insurance. But yeah, both sides are most likely going to pay.
Yeah, I think please confirm, Akuna, confirm we answer your question. And then we have another question. Somebody said, a question, please, how could this CrowdStrike be avoided in the future?
Well, I mean, hey, I think she means the CrowdStrike incident, not the actual, or the CrowdStrike
I think it should be,
outage,
it
not
should be.
the actual company.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, there are competitors out there. So if you wanted to go with a different company, that's there. But again, we always want to make sure that we're not just going for another company just for the sake of going for another company. Make sure, whatever you're trying to prevent is not going to happen with the next company as well. But some of the things we discussed earlier today are the things that companies need to do to prevent an outage like that. Have your own backup system. Make sure you're testing. You know what Letitia said. Third party, vet your third party vendors properly. Go to the granular level, like Eunice said. So all those things are things that are lessons learned from this outage.
Yes,
Yeah,
guys, and I'd like to add that there's no such thing as 100% trust. As you need to do the work. Let's, don't be lazy. If within your company they don't want to do their job, document everything. Make sure you document.
Right. And then someone said, I think is Navin, I thought they had tested in COTS environment. I'm not so sure if I understood your question.
Oh.
Yeah, but talking about testing, that's why we said that again, right? In a good job going through the different code testing phase. Again, there's human error. Let not at least dismiss the fact that people are not prone to error. We are humans. We are prone to errors, right? So that can happen. And that's why if we go in depth, you start hearing of like code review, peer-to-peer review, right? Say a developer writes a code, you have your peers that will have to like review that code. Again, just to check to make sure that everything looks good before we can deploy it. But again, if you look at it, we've discussed on both sides, CrowdStrike side and clients. Me, I'm really going to go hard on clients because at the end of the day, CrowdStrike is making their money. Believe it or not, they are rendering out services. We are also making money based on our customer data, our clients, right? Like me and you are information. So how well do we ensure that our data are better protected, or we better protect the data of our client or users, right? Because if CrowdStrike get breached, directly, we also get breached. But still, depending on the type of data or services that CrowdStrike provides, we also have the things to put in place to better prevent that. For example, we don't want automatic deployment, right? We also want to make sure we test it before we can deploy it. And we also want to make sure we have good SLAs. Each time we are working with the vendors, we want to make sure we have good SLAs before even onboarding that vendor or performing due diligence. So, any other thoughts?
Yes, and you mentioned earlier that those new controls added by the NIST standard publication 800-53 about automatic deployment, which is also key. I mean, if you follow all the if you follow your compliance, you're in compliance, you definitely will have something in-house to protect you.
Right. And I also want to use this opportunity and say, for some of you thinking that cybersecurity is saturated, don't think of it. This is just one company that a lot of company actually relies on, right? And somebody, I think Priscilla talked about diversification, right? Company needs to have alternatives, not just relying on CrowdStrike and CrowdStrike alone. So think of the fact that organizations have multiple vendors, thousands of vendors. Do you know how many cybersecurity they will need just to make sure they stay in compliance? What do you guys think?
A lot.
That's a
A
great,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah. So definitely the market is gonna even blow up even after this outage, because a lot of people, I think it was a wake-up call, because sometimes we don't think about cybersecurity or IT as something that affects different phases of our society. When you think about healthcare, of course everybody knows, oh, healthcare, it's kind of like a live or die situation. But IT is pretty big too. Do you see how everything was shut down? So yeah, the market is hot for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's well, so what do you guys think to navigate into third-party vendors? Do you really need some form of tech savviness to be able to start a career in like in that domain in security? What's your thought? And with that, if anybody have a question, please feel free to put your question on the chat and we'll definitely address it.
Yeah. Shout out to Naveen. Naveen mentions diversification as well. So yeah, definitely something that companies have to do. But to answer your question, Eunice, based on everything that Letitia covered today as far as third party, I mean, there is some part of it that is tech savvy, but definitely there's a whole lot that is not tech savvy. I mean, she went over several things as far as vetting your vendor, researching your vendor, making sure, this company has a good reputation, all of that stuff. That's not techie. I mean, a lot of you already do this in real life. We just need to start paying you to do it.
All right. Question that just came in. A buyer said, what's happening to our security? I think they said it doesn't have any cybersecurity risks as to be major inconvenience, but what is the reality?
I'm not sure I
Okay,
understand the question.
Let me see if I can read it very well. 1 minute. Okay, there's it. What's happening to our security? I know it said it doesn't have any cybersecurity risks as of now, but measure inconveniences. But what is the reality? So since there's no security incident, no major risks, was the reality? What can we talk about this? Because remember, I don't know if he joined late. We said that availability is being affected. So, but what's the reality of this whole CrowdStrike global issue? Yeah.
I think I see where the person is coming from. I think what they're trying to ask is that even though this is not a security incident, are we prone to having security incidents in the future? And the answer is yes.
Yes,
If that's
absolutely.
the answer is yes. So yes, maybe right at this moment, we're okay, but we always have to be prepared for an incident. It happens, all the time anyway. Even Eunice can tell you, just her own website gets hit on the back end constantly. Many big companies get hit. A lot of times you don't see, it on the flip side, because we obviously have things there trying to protect us as well. But it's a constant battle. And that's why we need you guys to get into cybersecurity, because the opportunities are just endless. The hackers won't stop. So we also have to be on top of it, Yeah.
Yeah. And let's not forget that though it wasn't a security incident, but availability got affected. We saw the chaos at the airport, hospital, transportation, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, Letitia, do you have anything on
No,
that?
transportation, logistics, I'm pretty sure people who I ordered from Amazon, they did not have their package on that date.
Yeah,
So think
people,
about it.
people that have
It's
scheduled
major.
surgery,
Yeah.
surgery, that's like an emergency, and you couldn't, right? Airplane, people were grounded, people couldn't
Yes.
travel. So that was affected. And let's not forget that it doesn't have to be a security risk, right? But there was some form of financial loss.
And financial loss is also a risk because we don't want that. It can affect the business continuity of a small company, for example, right? And the reputation
Right.
damage is also a risk. We don't want to lose the public confidence.
And let's not forget that when this thing happened, the bad guys actually took advantage to be sending spam and phishing emails.
Yes.
They're always ready. They stay ready.
It's like they're always knocking at the door. So once if you close your eyes completely, guess what? They'll enter. So that's why having that blue screen, we may not see it, but it led to other risk, right?
It
Such as
does.
data breaches.
Yeah, it does. Because I recall like this article where they were even warning a lot of people, tell your employee not to click on any email. It's not coming from CrowdStrike. Because still they know that people are ignorant, right? A lot of the phishing attempt or security incident we have is as a result of phishing emails. And with something that happened, they took advantage, and they still need our security again from everywhere, because at that point we have to educate our users. We have to educate our employees. They need to understand the different tactics cyber criminals will use to lure them, in collecting or divulging or releasing sensitive information. Right?
Rule of thumb, don't click any links. I will
Absolutely.
direct to the website.
Naveen, do you think the shift to AI will, this should be another live session? Okay, so Naveen said that, do you think the shift to AI will slow down because of this incident?
Definitely not. AI is, there's nothing that can stop AI at this point. They're already doing so many different things. People's eyes are opened now to see that, oh my God, we can create a video, we can create a song, we can do this. No, it's AI is going to keep going. We just have to protect ourselves.
And let's not forget, this should be, say, like we might get a section on that, because I have a question in mind. Will AI replace cybersecurity?
No.
It's literally taking over the world, right? And good thing is it comes with a lot of security. Like potential risks, but still it's not going to prevent organization from going into process where they have to save money. Automation. We live in a different world, right? So at this point, it's a good thing for security, as a matter of fact, because they will need security professionals to make sure that these different AIs or tools adhere to the different regulatory authorities. Make sure they do what, guys, like have security controls. Make sure you are even training the users, for them to understand, the sensitivity of the data they are collecting and processing. You keep scanning that particular tool to remediate vulnerabilities. So apparently, security again is literally the big brother of IT. I think so. What do you all think?
I completely agree, because, when you start to automate things and you're pushing things to AI, you definitely need to make sure that nothing goes crazy, and that's where security comes in. As you're automating, and one thing that you can never automate, or what's the word when you take things out of the country? I forget what word they use. When you actually hire people from, say,
Okay,
offshore. Yeah. One thing that you can never outsource is security. I don't care how simple you want things to be, or how quickly you want to automate things. You always have to make sure that, okay, at the end of the day, is my customer data still safe? Are my operations still going to go the way they should? Just because I want to save money, I'm not going to put the reputation of my business in jeopardy, because at the end of the day, you won't have a business if people can't trust you. So security is always going to be big.
And Priscilla,
That's
people should think about AI as a tool. Is a tool. Automation is a tool, and you always need people to be there. The tools help us like make our job, make our day-to-day life easier, right? But you still need people to come in to review those tools, the response coming from that tools. So don't forget that. And from that, you still have jobs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, to be honest, some jobs will go away. Okay, let's not say, what some jobs will go away, but as far as jobs, no, because as a lot of jobs that are going to go away are going to be things that are simplistic,
Yes.
mundane things. Things that, okay, you're just copying one thing to this thing, or some of the code now they say ChatGPT is writing code. So yeah, some jobs will go away, but as far as jobs that involve securing data, we will still need compliance, following regulation. Nobody wants millions of fines against their company.
Yes.
So compliance is still going to be a game changer.
Yeah, I think with that, we have like some time that we need to take. Naveen said that it's true that there's a lot of jobs in security, in cybersecurity, but the problem is that the vast majority of these jobs require security clearance. And this excludes candidates who do not have nationality. Anyone want to add there? You guys want me to go?
You go.
So initially, my honest point, or what I would tell you is, a lot of government jobs will require security clearance, and not all government jobs require security clearance. Okay, I for one, I'm a government contractor. I do not have a security clearance. I could not go for a job that requires security clearance for my own personal reason. Okay, so are there jobs out there? Absolutely, there are jobs for non-citizen or nationalities, right? Initially, before I even moved to the field, it was more of like US citizens. But now the demand is so high. When COVID hit, we realized that a lot of companies literally have relaxed system. We saw a situation where, especially healthcare sector, a lot of them got affected, right? So we've seen a lot of jobs where they kept asking people, will you need like sponsorship? I've had people who have work permit and they are in this, like literally they have jobs and they are doing well. Okay. So once you have that skill, and not forget the fact that it also depends, how do you search? How do you look for jobs? That's an important facet, right? Because some might just go out there and maybe they are going back to USA job, or they are looking for those jobs that require clearance. But if you go to LinkedIn and other job boards, you will see a lot of jobs that do not require clearance. As a matter of fact, we had one student that when he was applying, he actually rose this issue like, you know what, a lot of the job are for security clearance, but so far that student have taken more than 10 interviews. When we sat down with him and we actually went through or show him how he can apply on some of these jobs, now he's doing well, and he's definitely, hopefully he might get an offer letter soon, very soon, right? So please take that narrative away. That field is so in demand. If you can defend your skill, I've seen people with master's degree in cybersecurity. I've seen people with clearance, secret or whatever clearance, they still cannot get a job in cybersecurity. I've had people like that. I have to mentor them. But you've had people with just their basic security plus, and with their skill set, they are able to get jobs and to maintain those jobs. So in a nutshell, the market is out there. First, how do you beat the ATS system to get notice? How do you tailor your resume that way you get sorted? And once you're being sorted, how do you pilot? How do you take ownership of your interview for hiring managers to like definitely extend an offer letters, right? So if you need more, maybe if you need more support or guidance on that area, please, we'll send out our information. You can reach out to us. I will be more than welcome to, answer your question. We have another question, guys.
And subscribe to the page.
And please, guys, subscribe to our page. And if you like it, give a thumbs up, share with your friends. That way they can also come and watch it. Okay?
For sure. Yeah, I think I see a peer's question.
Yeah, I'm trying to read it now.
Okay.
So he said, since the unavailability issue didn't have anything to do with cybersecurity. Nope, that's not the case. So first, we have to pause there. It had to do with infrastructure building and programming issue. Would it mean we need better developers and better testing? So security was affected. Security was definitely affected. So in security, you need to understand, and that's why I said people can go and watch the CIA trial video that we have uploaded on our YouTube page and also have it on our website for free, right? So in security, you need to understand confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
CIA triad.
Excellent. Availability, it means data is not available, right? It does not need to be a security incident, but still it results to financial loss. And Letitia said that is a risk, right? So availability was affected. And of course, some people are going to get, I don't know, maybe insurance will have to cover. Some people are going to receive some form of, the cost of the issue.
Yes, so I
Okay.
see where he's going, or she, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
But okay, so you're saying because it wasn't a security incident, then maybe we should focus on coders.
Do they
But-
need more developers and
but-
better testers?
Think about it this way. During that outage, do you know how many other security incidents occurred? And do you also know if, a security incident had occurred with one of the big players, how catastrophic it would have been? Because when availability is affected, other things can go wrong. So in the midst of that chaos where they were trying to get everything back on course, people were already trying to poach in and break in and do different things. So yeah, so we definitely cannot say, let's not focus on cybersecurity, let's just focus on the coders, because if you do that, then, that's when you're actually going to get attacked. You don't want that. You never want to not focus on cybersecurity. It's always going to be a focus.
And don't forget that security actually set the rules for those code to be tested. That's a security requirement, right? So even having all of these folks, you testing that code, that's a security control. And if your organization is in compliance, depending on the type of regulatory authority or body that it goes with, again, that's something that investigation, one is being carried out, and they realize that you all are not in compliance, then you're going to face those penalties. Yeah, so apparently that's a security concern, because security folks have to also make sure that developers or testers actually are testing those code. And I even recall one of the projects I work on where I have to develop like a secure code review checklist. I was managing developers and DevOps engineers, right? So as Priscilla said, from the SDSC, you have to test the code, right? And I'm not gonna lie, developers are one of the most stubborn people to work with. So it's like, yes, right? So they just want to be left alone. Okay, but you security compliance get come here and telling them, no, we're gonna do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. Understand it might be an extra work, but still from compliance side, it's really, really important for us to be able to put all our pieces together to prevent anything from happening, because we deployed that best security practices, DevSecOps, deploy that at the lower phase of the SDLC, so that when we go to production, it's a live environment. We need little or no issues. Correct?
Yep. Sounds good to me.
What actually, when I meet the first part of the conversation,
You don't have to watch the recording.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, nice discussion, guys. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, so I think they said it's actually a delay. So guys, let us know what your thought is. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please give a thumb up, share with your friends. And this is something that we just hopefully, we'll have like a live session where we can touch next like different topic. If there's any question that you have that you want it to be addressed, follow us on social media platform, send it to us, or you also have a number that we can add you to our WhatsApp community group, or come to our YouTube page or YouTube channel put your question, and I promise you, we will definitely, you guys will see our faces again. And yeah, we are welcome. We will definitely take whatever question that you guys have. Just Will said interesting discussion. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jaswil. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for watching us. Please like and subscribe. We're gonna continue this. This was very exciting and informative, just sharing knowledge and even learning from you guys as well. So yeah, thank you.
Yes. And I love the questions. Hopefully we were able to add, good insight to your already established knowledge. We're here to all learn. We are all learning here.
Yeah.
So see you guys next time. Again, we'll look for a good topic. This one was just like the hot topic. I was like, we need to address it.
Yeah.
We just need to share our own opinions, So if you have any other opinion, any other suggestion, please feel free. We are here to learn. We are here to encourage others to get into this field. The field is so lucrative. If you have, some form of intimidation, we are there just to like give you that assurance that, we also started from somewhere. And if we can get to the field and we are doing this well, you also can get there. Okay.
Yep.
Hopefully next time I'm going to tell you all about our story. I always said from zoology to security. So you can imagine what that means. Bye, people. We'll see you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.